Okay, look, I got about 1/3 of your yard done. I know you guys want the blackberries hedged too and everything, but listen, I got a video to report to you, so give me a little bit of a break, okay? I don't know why you white people have so many decorations in your backyards. You're the only ones that see it, and you just make your job harder for a landscape.
This man's an illegal alien.
That's preposterous.
Frittata!
Here is as American as apple pie.
But anyway, that doesn't matter. If you didn't know, there was a war going on in your own backyard. Not this backyard, your virtual internet backyard. You see, after the Nintendo Switch spec reveal, Nintendo fanboys have been rabid. And, like a dying carcass, attracting vultures, bunch of PlayStation fanboys came in. And now the two of them are fighting over which console is actually weak. And believe me, I've never seen a group of more tech illiterate people trying to argue about specifications. Oh, that's the thing about console wars. It's always super entertaining to watch two sides that are highly insecure about each other's platforms going at it. Even though we all know the PC is like the superior platform and there's no reason to be doing this. But that is also why console wars are so fascinating, because in the world of a console fanboy, PC gaming isn't even in the conversation. I mean, if these guys were PC gaming, they would know a little bit more about what they're talking about. But because they subject themselves to solely consoles, they're f***ing brain dead. And, well, an opportunist like me can't resist because stupidity is just as good as gold. And if that's what you're here for, then be sure to hit subscribe because we are so close. And I mean so close to 80K. And like I said, once we hit 100K and I get sent that silver play button, I will unbox it with a face reveal. So that way you can plaster it all over the internet and make memes out of it like I'm expecting you guys to.
It's 'cause you're Mexican.
So, Blunty, some tech/gaming YouTuber, I made a video on him years ago where he had a mental breakdown about PC gamers being right and him being wrong, and I covered it. And, well, you know, never paid attention to his channel ever since. That wasn't until he put out several videos glazing up the Nintendo Switch 2. But I'll give him this. The Nintendo Switch 2 is indeed impressive for a handheld. I mean, anybody who tells you it's not is just blatantly lying. But then again, you kind of expect a handheld to be doing better in 2025 anyway. That being said, there are still clear limitations that are being ignored. And Nintendo fanboys took the opportunity to use Blunty's videos to gas up the Nintendo Switch 2 like it's the next coming of Jesus. And then you got tweets like this.
I don't care if it's 1080p upscale to 4K, while your console is running it at native 4K. To me, and nearly every gamer, the final results look the same. Not my fault your console is worker harder, while mine's is worker smarter. To get the same results, Switch 2 on top, Cyberpunk now in 4K.
Stupid science bitch couldn't even make I more smarter.
These Nintendrones legitimately think they're running Cyberpunk in 4K. Oh my god, they are out of their minds. Not only is it not running Cyberpunk in 4K, it's not even running Cyberpunk at 1080p, you dumbass. The game is being rendered at 540p and then using DLSS to upscale to 1080p, sometimes 720p.
However, is it actually 1080p and 720p, or is DRS in play, as we saw from the footage? And the answer is that, yes, DRS is in play, quite obviously. They don't want to go into specifics here, except they did say that scaling can range from 2x and up per axis, which effectively confirms that it's going to be a 540p to 1080p range for those 1080p modes, and it'll be like 360p to 720p on that 720p 40 handheld. So
it's not even remotely close to 4K. Not only that, but the PS5 version is also not at native 4K. As it stands, the only way to play Cyberpunk, if you even want to, at native 4K is on PC. But it's downright delusional to believe the Switch 2 is even giving you the same results as the PS5, which can't even produce anywhere near close to the same results as a PC. Like, it's not enough for these guys to be simply impressed that this game can even run on their handheld, but they want it to equally stack up to a PS5 version. They're insane. The Switch 2 version has trouble loading things in as you're driving. It's much better than the Steam Deck version, I'll give them that. That's where the benefit of DLSS comes in, on top of the criminal amount of motion blur they slapped onto this thing. It should be a crime against humanity to put that much motion blur in your game. It's also hilarious how he's saying the PS5 is worker harder to get its image quality as, you know, the Nintendo Switch 2 is huffing and puffing and on the verge of death just to run this game, and not even at a stable 30 FPS. While rendering the game at 540p, like, you gotta be insane to think it's even close to the same results. And I'm not here to defend PS5, guys, but what we have here is just blatant misinformation peddled by some hardcore fanboy who in his heart believes the Switch 2 is the tablet that could. And that's fine. You are sacrificing quality for portability. That's the whole point of the device. But these guys outright think they're playing from 1080p upscale to 4K when it's not even remotely close to the truth, and that's just hilarious. This was like me as a kid thinking that the Nintendo DS could produce visuals just as good as the PSP. No, I was insane, and so are you. Well, if you thought that post was full of tech illiteracy and stupidity, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yakuza Zero graphics look better on Nintendo Switch 2 than PS5.
Again, they just constantly lie in order to make their little tablet look stronger than it really is. I don't know why they do it. It's not enough for them to have the portability advantage. They also want their portability to look better than current gen console versions, which this version of Yakuza running on the PS5 is not. This is the PS4 version with no enhancements. The one that came out originally in 2015. So you're goddamn right, it's been patched up for the Switch 2. But how sad is it though that they have to compare it to the 2015 version of the game just to try and score a W? I played Yakuza Zero on PC and it was the cleanest looking version of them all, by far. So to me, both these versions look like complete ass. Not to mention, it's also a PS3 game, initially. So Nintendo fanboys are literally soy jacking over a PS3 port running at 60 FPS on the Switch 2. This is why Nintendo fans need to be bullied out of tech discussions. They're not smart enough, and they're especially not informed enough to be a part of said discussions. They look like complete retards. And here all along, I thought it was just PlayStation fanboys who had these tech illiterate dudes that run with tweets, misinforming people to try and convince them how powerful their system is. No, it looks like Nintendo Switch guys are even more cringe than the PlayStation guys are at this. It's pathetic. Like, don't get me wrong, we're all impressed with what the Switch 2 can do, but when I see that you're comparing it to what the PS4 could do, wow, I am not impressed at all. And now you kind of accidentally made the Switch 2 look a little weaker than I initially thought. It's not good when Nintendo fanboys have to resort to unpatched PS4 versions running via backwards compatibility on a PS5 to try and score a victory. How pathetic is that? And as a diehard PlayStation hater, I can't believe I have to defend it. How do you guys do this? How do Nintendo fanboys pull that off? How do you make someone who will never defend a PS5 defend one? Jesus Christ. That is the extent of their tech illiteracy. They are able to get haters like me defending a PS5 because they're just that stupid. Not to mention, they got this game a full-on 2 console generations later, finally, when the tech can actually, handle it. And the first thing they want to do is try to compare it to a PS5? What is wrong with Nintendo, guys? I was of the notion that they don't buy games for graphics. And what they're doing here right away is trying to compare graphics. The only thing impressive here is what RGG Studios was able to manage to pull off on a PS3 years ago, because this game looks really good for a PS3 title. There's a reason they're not comparing it to the PC version and how that stacks up, because the image quality is night and day there. Because as it stands, there is no enhanced PS5 version. What we're seeing here is the enhanced Switch 2 version. This is not a testament to how good the system is able to keep up with other platforms. It's deceptive. Because trust me, Nintendo guys, you don't want to see what Yakuza Zero could look like enhanced on a more capable system. Because for a handheld, sure, I'm impressed. For a 2025 gaming device, Breaking! The Nintendo Switch 2 haters have been officially diagnosed. The cause of their extreme delusions and denial of Switch 2 power of being on par with PS5 has been revealed. We're really saying that the Switch 2 is on par with the PS5 now? Are you insane? It's the return of this Nintendo God guy again. He's everywhere on Twitter and every single Nintendo post, constantly fondling Miyamoto's balls. But anyways, let's have a look at that meme and see how accurate it really is. Nintendo derangement syndrome, NDS, look at that. They can't even come up with their own memes. Definition: Nintendo derangement syndrome is a term to describe a condition where individuals lose all sense of objectivity and rationality when discussing Nintendo. Does this also apply to Nintendo fans? Just wondering. Specifically those who obsessively hate the company. Oh no, okay, so it only applies to people who don't like what Nintendo does. Okay, gotcha. This often leads to exaggeration, misinformation, double standards, and bizarre emotional reactions whenever Nintendo is even mentioned. Symptoms of Nintendo derangement syndrome: compulsive lying about Nintendo sales, hardware specs, or game quality, goalpost shifting when proven wrong, downplaying critical or commercial success, calling fans cultists while foaming at the mouth about a 40-second Nintendo Direct trailer, using piracy or emulation as a moral crusade. Okay, so basically, Nintendo derangement syndrome is when you don't kiss Nintendo's ass and worship them for everything they do. Or when you emulate games instead of supporting Nintendo. It's strange. How exactly do you diagnose this mental condition? Because how do you distinguish the difference between this and a normal person? Because, you know, not wanting to pay $80 for games, not liking that Nintendo is abusing patenting laws to take gameplay mechanics away from other games, not being impressed with, you know, the Nintendo Switch's visual output, not liking the price tag, preferring emulation over paying Nintendo subscription fee for a limited access to older games. That's all pretty normal, but I'll show you something that's not normal, something that'll make your jaw drop. Because if all those things are classified as a mental disorder, then I'd hate to be someone who is the complete opposite of that.
I'm glad Nintendo didn't send any Switch 2 consoles to media outlets to review before launch. So many outlets are compromised and biased. I trust the hands-on impressions from attendees at their Switch 2 experiences more. Everyone has been overwhelmingly positive based on their hands-on time with the system.
Do you think you can stop eating penis long enough to do that? Probably.
These guys now think there is a media bias against Nintendo, the most adored and worshipped company on this planet. You can't make this shit up. These guys legit think less people reviewing the Switch 2 is better for Nintendo, when all we know these journalists will do is praise Nintendo. Instead, he's a lot more content with a handful of selected individuals handpicked by Nintendo themselves being the ones to review this device and give their impressions, rather than a more broad selection of people. That's how crazy Nintendo fanboys are. They think there's a industry-wide conspiracy against Nintendo. They want nothing less than total worship and praise of this device. They're insane. All they want is overwhelmingly positive, overwhelmingly toxic positive reviews of this thing. They want you to believe it's on par with the PS5. Oh, but these guys are crazy. See, they think that the Nintendo Switch 2 transcends the PS5, so much to the point that they legitimately believe they're gaming in 8K now. But the Switch 2 will not have 8K capabilities. That's right, 8K shadow mapping and ultra quality mode just announced for fast fusion by the game developer. Switch 2 can do what your favorite console cannot.
How should I know? I'm retarded.
I'm done. That's it. That's the last one. I can't. No more. No more. No more. Okay? My little popsicle stick can barely handle the cringe. These guys went from, oh, it's doing 1080p, which it's not, to it's doing 4K, which is even more outrageous, to now it's doing 8K. These guys think their little tablet is doing 8K. You can't make this up. The amount of likes and support this guy gets is insane. Nintendo fans really do believe these things. For those of us that understand tech and we saw the spec breakdown of this device, we know what it's fully capable of. If it didn't have DLSS, this device probably couldn't even play Cyberpunk or Final Fantasy. I've had enough, okay? You know, every single time there's a brand new console on the market, console fanboys that have absolutely no knowledge of tech and just barely discovered what upscaling is and how that technology works, and now want to try and lecture everybody else. Yeah, no thank you. I deal enough with PlayStation guys trying to do the same, but Nintendo guys, if you know what's good for you, you will steer clear of any sort of tech discussions because you pollute it. There's nothing wrong with wanting to believe that the Switch 2 is the little console that could, but some of you seriously need to go get some psychiatric help, and I'm not willing to do it. I'm the reason you will seek psychiatric help. Like, comment, share, and subscribe if you so choose to. That being said, get the hell out of here. I'll see you in the next video.
Fritongo sucks ass.